In a world where success often demands the highest price, there are those who are willing to pay it, no matter the cost. This is the story of a woman who found herself ensnared by dark forces, led down a path of unimaginable rituals, and bound by a power that was never truly hers to control. From the depths of desperation to the heights of dangerous success, her journey will leave you questioning how far you would go for your dreams, and what happens when the darkness takes over. Welcome to Dangerous African Confession HD. Stay with us, because the truth is far darker than you can imagine. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the dangerous truths from the shadows.
It's hard to remember a time before all of this. Before the rituals, before the power, but I guess it started with the restaurant. It's strange, when you think back to when it was just a dream, a beautiful dream, full of hope and possibility. You see, I'd always wanted to open a restaurant. There's something about food, about creating an atmosphere where people can relax, enjoy themselves, and forget the world. That was my vision. I didn't have much when I started. I scraped together every last penny I had, borrowed from friends, took out loans. It wasn't easy, but it was mine. I put my heart into it. Everything I did was with the belief that if I worked hard enough, if I poured myself into it, it would pay off. But the sad truth of this is that it didn't. At first, it was small, just little setbacks. I thought I could push through them, like any entrepreneur would. But then, the real problem started. The bills started piling up. Customers weren't coming in, no matter what I did. To be very much honest with you, the food was good, the place was charming, I had a great team, and yet, it felt like I was invisible. I tried everything. I revamped the menu. I brought in a designer to redo the interior. I even tried social media ads, those surefire ways to get people in the door, but nothing worked. I thought if I just worked harder, if I put in more hours, it would change. But instead, the emptiness of my restaurant seemed to grow with every passing day. You see, as a young woman trying to make her dream work, I would wake up at 5 a.m. to prepare everything, then spend the day running around, doing everything I could to make it work. I'd go to bed late, staring at the ceiling, wondering why it wasn't happening. Why couldn't I get this right? I remember those quiet hours when it felt like the place itself was mocking me, saying it was the most painful thing, watching others succeed and feeling like I was sinking. I know people can relate to this feeling that I was feeling during the time. It wasn't just the failure of the restaurant that hurt. It was the weight of letting everyone down, my employees, my family, my friends. They all believed in me, in my dream. But all I could see was the money flying out of the door, the customers turning away, the competitors getting ahead while I stood still. The pressure was unbearable, my brother. Just like anybody who has put in her all, including her loved ones, I started to lose sleep. I couldn't concentrate. I didn't know what to do. I was drowning in debt, and it felt like no matter how hard I swam, I couldn't reach the surface. The thing is that I want to start here, so that whoever may be going through same situation will not think of making this same mistake I made in trying to revive my business. I tried everything that was supposed to work. I went to all the successful business owners, the ones who had been in the game longer. I asked them what their secret was. Most of them just gave me vague advice. Keep pushing, they'd say. Keep going, it'll pay off. But I was already doing that. What they didn't understand was that the harder I pushed, the more it felt like something was pushing back against me. It was like I was fighting an invisible wall. And I had no idea how to get through it. I felt like I was alone in this. I felt like the world was against me. It wasn't that I didn't have the drive or the passion, it just felt like something was off, like there was something out there, working against me. I couldn't explain it. But I felt it. Every single day. It was a kind of suffocating loneliness, a feeling that no matter how hard I tried, I was destined to fail. So, with all of these issues going on with my work, I decided to embark on prayer journey. I will go from this church to the other hoping that the good Lord will smile on me. But the more I go, the more the problems were compounding. The issue that was shocking too is that everywhere I went, the pastors who were supposed to help you navigate through this storm, either they will propose an intimate relationship with you or they will demand money from you. So, when I met this pastor and he didn't charge nor ask to have me in bed, I felt a bit cool and okay around him. I remember the day I went to meet him. It felt different. It wasn't like any appointment or meeting I'd ever had before. There was a kind of heaviness in the air, like I was walking into something I wasn't supposed to understand. You see, I'd heard about him from one other business owner, who I discussed my problem with, and he gave me the direction to him. And told me it was through his directions that his business was booming. He didn't say much, just that he could help. And when you're at your lowest point, when you're grasping for any lifeline, you don't question anything. You just go. I went to his place that evening. It wasn't a grand house or a business office, nothing like that. It was more like a small, secluded building hidden away in a forgotten corner of the city. When I arrived, I had to walk down a long, narrow path that was lined with overgrown bushes. It looked abandoned, almost like no one lived there at all. The air smelled strange. Not bad, but thick, like something ancient. Something alive in a way that didn't make sense. I know that sounds some way, but that's how it felt. As if the place itself was waiting for me. I stood outside for a moment, wondering if I was making the biggest mistake of my life. But I couldn't turn back. I was desperate. So, I knocked. He opened the door. At first, I was surprised by how ordinary he looked. He wasn't some mystical figure with robes and long hair. He wasn't tall or imposing. He looked like a man you could pass by on the street and never think twice about. I didn't know what to expect. I thought he'd say something, welcome me in or ask why I was there. But he didn't. He just looked at me, like he was waiting for me to speak first. And I don't know why, but I felt this strange compulsion to just follow him inside. Inside, the room was lit, the kind of lighting that makes everything look just a little off. There were candles flickering all around, and the air smelled of incense, thick and heavy. The walls were covered in an old tapestry, things I couldn't even begin to understand. He told me to sit down. The second I did, he said he knew exactly why I was there, that he knew about my restaurant, about my struggles. But here's the thing, he didn't just know about my business. He knew things about me that no one else could have known. My childhood. My fears. My darkest moments. Things I never told anyone. And when he said them, I felt this chill run down my spine. It was like he had been inside my head, reading my mind. And then my brother, he said something I'll never forget. He said, I don't need more effort. I don't need better food, a new menu, or more marketing. What I need is power. Power that will take me places that hard work alone can never go. And then he said that he can help me get that power if only I want it. You see, he said that with such certainty, like he wasn't offering me a choice. He was simply stating a fact. At that moment, I should have walked away, I know. I should have. But something in me, something inside me, was drawn to him. I couldn't explain it. It was like he was speaking a language my soul understood, even if my mind didn't. And I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this wasn't just some scam. That he really had something that could save me. I was tired of losing. I was tired of feeling invisible. And when he said that, the place I was directed to, is where he comes and deals with issues of high realm. And when he is at the church doing his pastoral work, that is a different aspect of him working. But his calling is simply to connect people to the greater source where their work and businesses will flourish. This statement made me come realize that he was a pastor who has gone deeper than most of them that I had gone to. To me, this was a man who told me things no one knew except for myself and yet had not asked me for a penny. So, I asked him how. I asked him what I needed to do. And he told me that I needed to go home and pray over what I was coming to do, and after about a week I should meet him. If I still wanted him to help me. I wanted us to start that very day, but he said no. I should go ahead and pray just like he has told me. So, after the week, my brother, I went back to see him and he started having a discussion about the secrets of the world that I had never heard before. And that's when he told me about the rituals. He didn't explain them in detail at first, he just said they were ancient practices, old as the earth itself, that had been passed down for generations. He said they would connect me to the spirits that govern success, power, and wealth. But then he said the rituals would require sacrifice. Not just anything, but something very personal. And that's when I realized that the price of success wasn't just money or effort. He told me that the spirits would demand something in return. And I agreed. Because at that point, what choice did I have? I was already drowning. I needed to believe there was a way out. So, I accepted. And that was the beginning. My brother, let me tell you about how the ritual started. This was someone I even visited his church on Sundays. He was a real-time pastor and had a lot more members under him. You see, the rituals, they started simple enough. At least, that's what I told myself at the time. The prophet told me that I needed to become open to the spirits, that my mind needed to be in the right place before anything could happen. I was skeptical, but I was desperate. So, I did what he asked. He had me meet him at night, when the world was quiet. That's when the rituals were supposed to be the most powerful. It wasn't just about what we did, it was about when we did it. The first one took place in a forest just outside the city. We walked for miles, the ground wet beneath our feet, and there was a thick fog that made everything feel unreal. I remember feeling the cold air pressing against my skin, but there was a warmth inside me, too. Like I was already beginning to change. But I didn't know yet what that change would really mean. He led me to a clearing in the forest. There were stones placed in a circle, and in the middle, a fire burned. The flames were strange, flickering but never fully lighting up the space around them, like they were just waiting for something. He told me to strip down, to remove all my clothes, and to stand in the center of the circle. I hesitated, of course. It felt wrong. It felt too intimate, too exposed. In my mind, if he really wanted to also have his way with me, to sleep with me, he should have said so. So that I can decide whether to go ahead with it or not. But to trick me to this place alone with him was just not it for me. But he told me that if I wanted the power, I had to trust him. That I had to let go of all my fears, all my doubts. It took a little time for me to come to terms with what was about to happen. But eventually my brother, I went naked in front of him. So, I did. And once I was standing there, vulnerable, exposed, he began chanting. It wasn't in any language I recognized. It was like a deep hum, an ancient vibration that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The moment he started, I felt it. Like something changed around us. A kind of electric power that ran through me, making my skin tingle. I didn't know it at the time, but that was when the connection to the spirits was supposed to begin. You see, how I was sold to the spirits in the first instance. I was naked, and that the spirit seeing me naked like that, whatever happened, I don't know and I can't see in the spirit. But I know that is when my marriage to the spirit began. Before I continue, my brother, let me tell my fellow sisters that, no matter what, Don't ever go naked in front of any pastor or spiritual leader for any reason. If you do, you are being exposed and sold to the spirits for their own use. I am begging you all. Mine, I didn't feel anything right away, not at first. But I later realized the truth of whatever I did prior to my success. But then my brother, he told me to step closer to the fire. As I did, the heat became unbearable. It burned, but I couldn't move. It was as if my body was frozen in place. And that's when I heard it, the voices. Faint at first, like whispers in the back of my mind. Then louder, clearer. Calling to me. Telling me things. Things about my future. About power. About success. And they weren't kind. They didn't care about who I was, only about what I could offer. The prophet's eyes never left me. He just kept chanting. And then, just as I thought I couldn't take it anymore, he did break the chant, and for a moment or so after that, the spirit disappeared. After that, we came back home, but to his church auditorium. And he gave me things to go and sprinkle at my workplace until we meet for the next rituals. Oh, I will say yes and no, if you want to know whether what he gave me started to work. You see, it didn't take longer period of time before we went in to do the other rituals. But the few days that I did that, I saw some glimpse of increase, but it wasn't magnificent or whatever you may want to know. But certainly, there was some sort of that. My second ritual to usher me into this power is that I was made to bathe in a river that was behind his church. It is though not close to the church, but neither is it too far from it. I got to understand that most prophets use such powers to tell you all the things they say to you, all in the form of prophecy. It is the spirit that they have sold their soul to that tells them whatever they must know when you go to them for answers and prayers. It is never God that you think they are serving. I just needed to tell it as it is. I know it might not be so pleasing to people, but that is the sad truth. Most Christians don't know about the secrets of these pastors and prophets. It goes deeper than you think. He told me I was to bathe in the river. That was the second part of the ritual. I thought I had misunderstood him at first. And it was supposed to happen in the middle of the night. But he insisted. And so, I followed him down to the water. We arrived at the river just as the moon reached its highest point in the sky. The water was freezing, colder. He had me wade in, deeper and deeper until it was up to my waist. The moment the water touched me, it felt like something was pulling at me. Like the river itself was alive, and it wanted something from me. But I didn't back away. I couldn't. I was too far gone by that point. The ritual had already started to change me. The prophet told me to submerge myself, to let the cold water wash over me. I didn't question him, I did it. And as I sank into the river, it felt like everything around me disappeared. The world became dark. But I wasn't scared anymore. In fact, it was the opposite. I felt powerful. Like I could do anything. I could feel the spirit surrounding me, whispering in my ears, telling me what was mine, what I deserved. My brother, if I tell you things really exist in this world, it is understatement. I will say, the world belongs to these entities and people do have no idea what they are dealing with and doing. But I know that people gradually will wake up to the truth sooner than later. You see, when I came up for air, everything felt different. My mind was clear, but there was something else, something darker, lurking beneath the surface. The fire, I went naked before, the chanting, the water. It all felt like a part of me now, like it had claimed me, and there was no going back. I didn't realize it then, but I had crossed a line. I had let myself become part of something much larger. Something ancient. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't just about success. It was about power. Real power. And I was willing to do anything to keep it. The prophet didn't say much after that night. He just told me that the spirits were pleased, that I had been marked. And that from that moment on, things would change. I didn't know how or when, but I knew deep inside that my life was never going to be the same.
Success, power, and wealth, they all come with a price. And sometimes, the cost is more than you're willing to pay. Be careful what you seek, because the darkness has a way of finding those who chase it. Know the price before you make the deal. Know what you're willing to lose. This story is a harsh truth, but it's not the only one. If you've learned something valuable from this story, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share the lessons, the warnings, and the hope of redemption. We all need to remember that no success is worth losing yourself over. If you're not already subscribed, and want to learn more about the dangers that lie in the shadows, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our powerful stories and life-changing advice. Drop a comment below, and don't forget to like this video if you believe in the power of making wise choices in life. Until next time, remember, your soul, your peace, and your integrity are worth more than anything this world can offer. Stay true to yourself, and you'll never lose your way.